Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, DwyerVIP.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider these videos to be second opinions from a complete stranger online. It's the day after the conference championships in the National Football League. The 49ers yesterday beat Atlanta indoors. They're favored by 4 points over the Baltimore Ravens, who went to Foxborough and beat Tom Brady in Brady's house in a game in which they were losing at halftime. This video is on my initial thoughts on the point spread. Now, longtime viewers know my Super Bowl pick from last year is up online. I took the under in last year's game, and let's say I did all right, right? I know I got emails for days afterwards from very grateful gamblers. We did okay last year. What I want you to consider is to just find a minus 110 bet 110 to win 100, that you feel you can sink your teeth in. Don't worry about being the guy at the Super Bowl party who has picked the winning team. Right? Don't focus when you gamble on teams. Certainly don't fall in love with any team. Don't focus on teams. Focus on situations. Right? I don't like this point spread. These two teams are competitive teams with flaws. This Super Bowl might well be determined by turnovers. Right? Both teams, to be blunt, have holes. And the 4 points isn't high enough. Like yesterday's 10-point spread on offshore books, 7.5 in Vegas, was on the New England-Baltimore game. This point spread isn't high enough where it creates an opportunity for those who want to take the underdog, right? It's not 7 or higher. It's not a touchdown or more. Nor is this point spread low enough to allow the game to be decided by a field goal, or where you can feel that the stronger team, like in yesterday's San Francisco-Atlanta game, San Francisco would be able to come back from a poor start and still be able to cover the number. Right? In my opinion, any number under 7 in this game is unbettable. Right? I don't like the point spread. Let's talk about why. Forget the hype. Forget Pro Bowl selections. Right? Forget the awards. Right? We're gamblers here. Let's just look at what actually happened. The Niners secondary is hopelessly overrated. Right? I don't want to hear about the rest of the team. I don't want to hear about the head coach. This Niners secondary is hopelessly overrated. How do we know that? I encourage everyone here. This video should just be a starting point for your research. I encourage everyone here to take a look at the box score from the Falcon game. Julio Jones, we know, had a big day. He was in triple digits receiving in the first half of the game. They obviously couldn't stop him, right? He was the big hole in the boat. Here's the problem. While he was the big hole in the boat, and keep in mind the Niners play predominantly man-on-man in the secondary. While he was the big hole in the boat, Roddy White also hit triple digits in the game. Worse yet, did you know that Tony Gonzalez had 8 balls thrown at him? Did you know that Tony Gonzalez caught all 8 balls? They didn't stop any of the big 3 receivers on the Atlanta Falcons. And when you look at the Niners secondary, while they have big hitters like Dante Whitner, right? Golston, big hitters. As I've said before in past videos, these guys aren't great cover guys. They can be beaten. Now, when you look at the Baltimore Ravens, understand the Ravens have some serious receivers who can spread the field, right? Anquan Boldin had 2 touchdowns yesterday. This is straight out of the box score in the Raven-Patriot game. Boldin had 2 touchdowns yesterday. He's a big-time receiver. You might recall that Boldin, when he was with Kurt Warner on the Arizona Cardinals, was one of the 3 receivers who had 1,000 receiving yards the same season, right? You can have a Larry Fitzgerald or a Torrey Smith, guys with superstar talent. On the other side of Anquan Boldin, he's going to get his. Also, he's exactly the kind of receiver. He's a Michael Irvin type receiver who can out-muscle physical DBs. You can throw the ball to Boldin in a crowd, and he knows how to get the ball in the crowd. He's not one of these receivers, Dante Stallworth, for example, who a DB can just out-muscle and push off the route. No, this guy's actually physical. Then you have Torrey Smith. Look at what Torrey Smith did against Denver. Torrey Smith is a huge problem, right? I was telling people yesterday that as I sat there watching the games, I thought Torrey Smith, an argument could be made, was the best wide receiver. I know the numbers don't show it, but I thought he was the best wide receiver playing in that Baltimore that Raven-Patriot game. Dennis Pitta, the tight end, got his yesterday. I know he's on the highlights for holding on to the ball after a big hit. Understand that the very next play, Pitta scores a touchdown. Right? Dennis Pitta can play the Tony Gonzalez role. Right? There's no problem with Dennis Pitta being able to catch passes underneath, like Tony Gonzalez did against Bowman and Patrick Willis. 2 guys with huge reputations. Willis was the guy beaten on one of the touchdowns yesterday, on the Gonzalez touchdown yesterday. Food for thought. Now, against this backdrop, you have a wild card, Jacoby Jones. He's the wide receiver who caught the long bomb, the touchdown at the end of regulation, that kept the Ravens alive against Denver in Denver. Out of all of these guys, he's probably the fastest guy. Now, given that Joe Flacco is a deep thrower, he's not a dink and dunk guy. The reason why his completion percentages are down is he's a throwback. He's like a quarterback from the 1970s. Think Burt Jones. He's throwing deep. My point is simply, given that the Super Bowl is going to be played indoors, just like the Atlanta Falcon 49er game was, and given that the Niners secondary had multiple holes, just look at the box score from yesterday, multiple holes against Atlanta. My point to you is that Flacco, a deep thrower, with talented wide receivers and a talented tight end. And keep in mind, he has a further dynamic that Atlanta didn't have yesterday. He also has a running back, Ray Rice, who can catch balls out of the backfield. Right? Given the tools that the Ravens have, I think the Ravens are going to have some success against this 49er defense. Right? Let me point out that if you look at the box score from yesterday, you're going to see that Atlanta had a whole lot of success because  of course, had more yardage than the 49ers yesterday. Matt Ryan actually had himself quite a day. Look at his quarterback numbers from yesterday, right? There's a flip side. New England and Tom Brady, I know the final score doesn't reflect it, but they also had quite a day. They outgained Baltimore. They had more first downs than Baltimore. This Raven defense isn't what it used to be. Ray Lewis is not who he used to be. Terrell Suggs is out there with one arm. This 49er offense is a juggernaut. Colin Kaepernick, as good as he runs, as many yards, 180 plus, as he gained rushing the football against Green Bay 2 weeks ago. Believe it or not, Colin Kaepernick is a better thrower than he is a runner. This guy is accurate. It's a joke that he slipped into the second round of the NFL draft. You need to consider Kaepernick to be the real deal. I'm telling you that those who saw him at the University of Nevada view him as a rare talent, right? The 49ers have given him number 7, John Elway's number. I know Elway wasn't a 49er, but understand that John Elway was a Stanford Cardinal. Everyone in the Bay Area knows, everyone over 30 knows the significance of the number 7 at the quarterback position. The Niners, Harbaugh and company, looked at Kaepernick and thought this guy might be able to fill out this number. And let me just say, right now the fit looks good. He's dangerous. Now, as dangerous as he is, don't sleep on the fact that he has a 1,000-yard receiver. This guy has some of the best hands in the game. Michael Crabtree. Understand, he has a Pro Bowl level tight end, one of the very best in the game. Look at Vernon Davis's stats from yesterday. Understand, he has weapons in reserve. Randy Moss yesterday averaged 15 yards a catch on 3 catches. Moss is still in the house, right? And, oh yes, before I forget, he has one of the dominant running backs in the game. He presides over one of the dominant rushing attacks in the game. How good are the Niners running the football? Let's just say yesterday, in the NFC Championship game, the Niners averaged more than 5 yards a carry. Right? Let me just point out, as you look at the Niners, as you hear all these big names on defense, understand that that San Francisco 49er offensive line is one of the very best parts of the team. And so, my point to you is, this is a competitive game. Both of these teams have holes defensively, right? Either quarterback could get hot and do great things. Try to look past Joe Flacco's bad body language. Understand, this guy has been to multiple conference championships. Multiple. This is his first Super Bowl. But understand, the guy has outperformed his opposition to the point where Mike Greenberg from ESPN, a guy close to sports, right, who commentates on sports for a living, before the game involving the Ravens and the Patriots, predicted that Joe Flacco would outperform Tom Brady. Some guys are just big game quarterbacks. And so since I consider both Colin Kaepernick and Flacco to be underrated, Since I consider both defenses to be overrated, right? I mean, seriously, tell me, which receiver did the 49ers stop yesterday? Tell me, did the 49ers stop Brady in a game in which the interceptions are off deflections or in desperation parts of the game? And of course, oh yeah, the Patriots had more first downs and more yards than the Ravens. So against this backdrop, the point spread of 4 is dangerous. I believe you need 7 or more to feel comfortable. If you don't get that, then given that this game is going to have a lot of prop bets, and keep in mind, we hit on our DwyerVIP.com prop yesterday. Tom Brady didn't come close to going over 2.5 passing touchdowns. That was an easy win. We picked the under 2.5 touchdown passes for Tom Brady. I believe he threw 1 in the game. My point to you is the action in this game should be on the prop bets, or if you get a skewed line on a halftime prop bet, or if you look at the over-under. In other words, you just want to get a -110 on a bet. My point to you is, given the capabilities of both of these teams, this Niners +4 point spread, in my opinion, too dangerous. Let me hear from you. Give us your analysis, why you feel that this point spread accurately reflects what's going on with the teams. Keep in mind, too, when you're talking about a team like the Baltimore Ravens, you really can't rely that much, in my opinion, on regular season stats. Simply because, first of all, they were a different team in the regular season, right? T-Sizzle missed time. Ray Lewis missed time. T-Sizzle and Ray Lewis are back. Also, teams like the Baltimore Ravens, to me, teams that have gotten to several conference finals in recent years, I believe they're like the old Akeem Olajuwon Houston Rockets in the NBA. They play for the postseason, not the regular season, right? Understand, too, they were in a position where they could exhale a bit at the end of the season. Don't get too carried away with the 49ers' superior regular season numbers. This is the postseason. I don't know what it's going to take for people to realize that the Ravens have just beaten Peyton Manning in his house, then crossed the street and beaten Tom Brady in his house, and all of that happened in their last 2 games, right? And so, and of course, think about it. Denver got off to a big lead. Since Denver had that big lead, think about the level of dominance that the Ravens have had in their last 2 games, right? Presumably against the 1 and 2 seed of the AFC. Don't rely too much on regular season numbers. I'm just telling you, use your instincts. This 4-point spread is too dangerous. Yes, the Niners are younger. Yes, the Niners have a lot of talent. Yes, Colin Kaepernick is underrated. This 4 points, to me, is too much of a premium. I don't feel comfortable on either side of it. This gambler is now going to drive off-road and try to find some gold someplace in the prop bets. Try to figure out why both of these teams, with all the big names on defense, right? T-Sizzle, Ray Lewis, Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis, why were both of these teams outgained in the conference finals, the biggest games of the year? Why were both of these teams really unable to contain people like the big names, the big 3 on Atlanta, right? Jones, White, Gonzalez, or Wes Walker? Look at his numbers from yesterday. Ravens couldn't stop him. Figure all that out. Thanks for watching. Hope you continue to visit us at gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com, and on Roku, Dwyer Boxing. Also on Roku, look for a private channel that I call Wise Guys I Trust, where I actually try to focus the spotlight on some Vegas gamblers, and I don't know any of them, Vegas gamblers who have routinely given predictions that have delivered in the past. Thanks for watching.